Hey, before we start, quick note, this video is part of the Quit Porn Quick Start course. If you're jumping in midway or if this is the first lesson you've seen, pause it and start with the course intro and the first lesson linked below. These videos are designed to be worked through in that order, not binge. All right, let's get into it. All right, welcome back. Part 5, Living in Vulnerability and Grace. First, thank you for sticking with me this far. I hope that if you've taken your time through this has been transformational and really helpful along this journey. This is what does life look like in the future? I don't know what the future looks like for you. If you work through this, hopefully you're in a better place and you see, right? You can imagine a better future where you don't need pornography. But the reality is that we live in a culture where we're constantly bombarded by sexual imagery and sexual messages. So you're going to have to encounter those in some capacity. And what I want to teach you in this last lesson is how to reframe how we think about relapse, what actual vulnerability looks like, and grace, so that you can stay on the journey, stay in the process of, instead of self-destructing or quitting or giving up or just saying, I just have to deal with this the rest of my life. Here's what I want you to know. Recovery is rarely linear. Most men assume that recovery should just be cold turkey, we quit overnight, or it's just clean upward trajectory. Sometimes it is, often it's not. Like I've said before, I think that's probably 1% to 2% of people who quit porn in that capacity, and they're really loud about it. Not bad, but it's not most people's stories. When you stumble or when you struggle, you might assume that something's wrong with you, that you blew it, that you can't do this. That's not true. You have to remember to just stay with it. Because if you get stuck, that assumption is going to be what drives you back into isolation and back into porn use. So if you're expecting recovery to be linear, you'll probably interpret struggle as failure. And remember what we said all along, struggle is good. Failure isn't failure if you learn something from it. The moments that I was most tempted to quit were the moments I needed grace the most, where I gave myself permission to say, yeah, I was heading down a path here. I was going toward pornography, but I don't have to keep going. I can stop, I can turn back now, and I can keep going on the recovery journey. So what does relapse actually mean going on in the journey of recovery? This is critical for you to reframe this. So relapse is not the absence of effort. It's feedback. You have to see it as feedback because it reveals pressure points in your system. This isn't an opportunity to go, well, this blows and I'm just stuck. It's a way of like really tightening down your process and what's going on. So if you have the filters or the software in place, you've got the accountability structure set up, you've done the work, you figured out what your triggers and your guardrails are, you've got seeds in place, and you're still finding, oh gosh, this week there was this one place that really like I was not planning for, wasn't expecting it. It didn't show up before when I was doing the other work to sort of figure this out. Okay, well, now it has shown up. If it caused relapse, okay, that's a bummer. But now we know. Now we know that's a weak point. So how do we put that on our list of things to pay attention to so that we recognize that as a trigger or potential place to relapse? So again, think about it as feedback. Think of it as like, how would I say this? If you're in a boat, you've got some holes in the boat and you start plugging those holes to stop the leak, you might think, okay, all the leaks are plugged, we're good, I'm going to keep sailing. And then like a half an hour later, oh, you catch another leak. That doesn't mean the boat is done for and that you just got to figure out a way to swim back to shore. It means, oh, I have to still tend to a couple leaks here and there. That's okay. It's part of the process because relapse doesn't erase progress. It sometimes just exposes what still needs attention. Shame lies about what failure means. When you experience failure and you think, this is it, this is over, remember that's toxic shame and you don't need that crap. Relapse is information, not condemnation. Next, shame versus conviction. Like we talked about, toxic shame says you are the problem. You should be further along. I can't believe you relapsed. You ruined everything. That's toxic shame. Conviction says, healthy shame says something isn't aligned. There's an invitation here to adjust. I'm still wanted and I matter and it's worth me pursuing this. This is pivotal that you catch this because if not, man, toxic shame will rear its ugly head when you least want it to, and it will pull you back toward isolation because that's what shame does. It isolates. Conviction invites repair. Grace will interrupt that spiral and says, you are worth it. God still loves you. God still likes you. God still enjoys you. And you have people in life that care about you. Let's move toward them and trust instead of mistrusting. Vulnerability as a practice, not necessarily confession. Here's what vulnerability is. It's not dumping everything on everyone. It's choosing to be known over being impressive. So it's about being honest. It's practiced in relationship over time. It doesn't happen overnight. Who are the people on the journey with you that will go on the journey with you where you can be open and vulnerable? It doesn't mean graphic details. It just means honesty about where you're at. Vulnerability isn't about saying everything, it's about refusing to pretend that you're okay when you're not, and that's okay. How to handle a setback. This is what we need to do. If you've had a setback, you've had a relapse, or you've caught yourself sort of spiraling down a path, don't spiral. Don't beat yourself up. Don't tell yourself what a piece of crap you are. You don't need to punish yourself. You don't need to break your phone. You don't need to totally disrupt what you've worked for, the rhythms that you've worked for, and punish yourself by saying, okay, well, if I relapse, then I'm not going to talk to people. I'm not going to see my friends. I'm punishing myself. No TV, no dessert. I don't know. In whatever ways you might punish yourself, don't do that. Remember, you got to get back up, stick to your rhythms, continue to move toward people, and spend some time in reflection. And this is the key. When you're living in vulnerability and grace, you have the capacity to slow down and not let a relapse tank you, but you have the freedom to ask, what was I feeling before this? What need did I actually need? What was unmet? And then where did my rhythms break down? 100% of the time, if I spend some time doing a post relapse session with somebody, there's always a breakdown in rhythms, and everybody always knows it. I know it could sound something like, well, I wasn't doing this. I wasn't checking in with my partner regularly. I was using a device that wasn't attached to Covenant Eyes, so I was getting around stuff. There's always a breakdown. And the invitation to always is to continue to show up and be honest about it. If you're going to lie about it, then none of this matters. So tell your safe person, don't clean it up, don't isolate, just adjust. Update those triggers, add support if you need to add support in some places, and then strengthen those rhythms. How can I go back to my rhythms in a way that's more sustainable? Because maybe you set the bar too high and you can't keep up with it. And one of the things that I tell people is that failure, when it's handled well, becomes formation. And that's what we're after, is formation. Grace is not avoidance. Grace is empowerment. Grace says, I am experiencing the mercy and the blessing even though I don't deserve it. Grace doesn't remove responsibility. It just restores hope. You have to understand grace. You have to show yourself grace, and you have to understand that God is extending grace to you because it will help fuel perseverance and keep you on the journey. The opposite of grace is self-contempt. I'm a piece of crap. How's that going to go? It's not. It's going to fuel relapse. And how can you choose to trust and accept grace from the people in your life and from God? You need to develop this mindset of staying in the fight. After a while, if you get some sobriety under your belt, you get 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 20 weeks, you start to think, okay, I might be over it. Or you might just start letting your guard down. And while I get that 100%, you do need to stay watchful for a season. And I'm going to say the better part of 2 years at minimum. This is what we call long obedience. It's you're learning a new way of being. You'll stumble, probably, and you still have to move forward. So it's about picking up the pieces, staying in the fight, not quitting. You're just not quitting. And remember, if you do relapse, you're not starting over, because you can probably at this point look back and go, okay, well, I may relapse once a month now, whereas previously it was once a day. That's progress, not perfection. That's progress. Because the more you do that, the more you grow, the more insight you gain, the more sustainable your recovery journey is. Remember, you only fail if you quit. You only fail if you quit. I'm going to say that again. You only fail if you quit. So here are your action steps. This is what I want you to do. Schedule regular check-ins with somebody. Again, not crisis moments always, but regular check-ins just to check in. Let somebody know how you're doing. What are you feeling? What do you need? Have a post-setback or relapse plan in place. If I have a setback or relapse, I'm going to pause, I'm going to reflect, I'm going to share, and I'm going to adjust. Work that out. And then I want to practice self-compassion. How you talk about yourself, how you think about yourself, how you speak to yourself. Speak to yourself like you would to a friend. Encourage yourself. You need to do that. Recommit to the process. Again, not perfection, but we're staying in the fight. We're recommitting to the recovery journey. I hope that this guide has been helpful to you on your journey. But frankly, this is just the beginning. And I hope that you've taken your time and slowed down through this and gotten what you needed to out of it. Awareness, community, rhythms, and grace. Hopefully for you, these things all now work together. But the invitation is to keep going with others. Freedom isn't proven by never failing. It's proven by returning to the work. So what will you do moving forward when you relapse, when you have a setback? How will you handle that? Spend some time reflecting here again and share that with somebody in your life. Hopefully, if you've gone through this, you probably have a keener idea of what you need. And so that's the thing I want to leave you with in this video is, what do you need? Do you need to bolster your community? Do you need to take another look at technology? Do you need to take another look at what your rhythms are? Do you need to take the next step and do some one on one coaching with Nick or I? What's your next step? Figure that out. Let me know how I can help. Post on the community page. Let the guys know how they can help. Say what you need. Praying that God would continue to bless you on the journey of recovery. Hey, real quick before you go, don't let this stop at insight. The next step is to continue with the next video in the playlist and stay connected while you do this work. You'll find a link below to join the free school community where you can process this, ask questions, and mainly don't do this alone. So take the next step when you're ready.